Here's an interesting thing. I thought you guys might drool over or be interested in or bored and go to the pub. I'm not sure which. I thought it was quite fascinating, to be fair. It's Monte Blanco. I've just recently been there, and this is one session, and the different laps from the same session. I've split the screen so that you can see how similar or dissimilar the lap is. The one thing when I'm coaching somebody, I always bang on all about is being consistent and the importance of being consistent. It's really the only way that you can actually change something if you can be consistent to start with. And then you have a good starting point, and then you can really fine tune the change that you're doing. So what we'll do is we'll run through this lap first of all so you can get a flavour of it, and then we'll rewind it, and then we'll go through it, because one lap is fractionally faster than the other. But it's quite interesting to see where that extra sort of speed, if you want to call it, comes from, whether it's a mistake or whether it's slight improvements in areas. So we'll run through a lap first of all with me chatting briefly about it, and then we'll rewind it, and then we'll do it step by step, so you'll hopefully see the small changes which do happen. Okay, let's crack on. Okay, into the last turn. So it's slightly uphill as you come out of it, a bit of a wheelie onto the straight. Bikes are now running more or less side by side. Under the start gantry, pretty much identical. Arriving at the first corner, keep it out, brake deep into the corner, full brake see. Round turn 2, again, very little in it. Slight gap opening up at this point, not much in it again. Rapid change of direction through turn 4. Out onto the back kink straight, if you want to call it that. Another bit of a gap starting to open up. And there's where a distinct gap happens around here. Notice how the tip-ins are all happening fractionally different now, because right-hand screen is ahead. Left-hand screen starts to catch up a little bit through this next few corners. Help to close the gap down a little bit. Tip-ins are starting to tighten up. Left-hand screen's catching up a little bit more now. Over the top here, left-hand screen doesn't make so much of a good job of it. Right-hand screen starts to get away a little bit. Yeah. Around the last couple of corners. Past the pit entry. Into the last corner. Right-hand screen's still ahead, not by a huge amount. Coming up onto the start-finish straight, alongside the pits, and we get to the gantry now. And that's the difference you see. Right-hand screen, the gantry is directly above us. Left-hand screen, got that short gap there, which is possibly a second. So let's go over that a bit slower now and see what the difference is, or where the differences came from. Now, if we go back to square one, and we'll go corner by corner, what I hope you'll see is the importance of the consistency side of it. So let's get right back to the marker which I put down. So as we get to the start of the tipping curve, you can see how both bikes, drop that to the bottom, you can see how both bikes are doing just about exactly the same speed. So around the last corner onto the straight, apexing fractionally quicker on the left screen, but the speed is very similar. And then we're up onto the straight. So let's motor on a little bit down the straight. As we get to the start of the buildings on the right, which is the pit complex, very nice pit complex they are too, you can see the bikes are within 1 mile an hour of each other. So we're now effectively exactly the same sort of pace. Get down to somewhere into the braking area, and you can see that's just about where we're braking. And again, we're within a mile an hour of each other at that point. On the brakes into turn 1, everything's going tickety-boo, full brakes. Still on a lot of brake, feathering it back, and finally off the brakes just around the apex of the corner. Apex speed, again, within a mile an hour of each other, almost the same. At this point on the track, we're more or less running side by side if there was 2 of us on the track. Run up past turn 2, up to turn 3. Got a slightly better drive on the right-hand bike, so we're arriving there fractionally earlier. Into the corner, braking deep into the corner. We arrive on the right-hand one and the left-hand one almost the same time. 49 and 59, 49. So again, very, very little in it at that point. Short squeeze the throttle, rapid change of direction, and into the next right. Now this is the start of where the right-hand screen starts to get away. And it's largely because my big deal when I'm coaching somebody is to get them to pick up the throttle as close to the apex as possible, and from that point attempt to drive, at least maintain, but attempt to drive. So I've picked up the throttle, and as you can see, we're about 55 mile an hour as we pass the apex. So there's nothing in it at this point. But the right-hand bike now actually accelerates slightly harder, because as we're coming to the end of the curve, as you can see, the end of the drift out curve here, just as that kind of disappears, we're about 83, 84 miles an hour. This bike is fractionally behind, so this bike hasn't accelerated quite as quickly. And also what happens is as that curve disappears, we're down a few miles an hour. So that's about 4 to 6 miles an hour difference at the same point on the track. Now, that might not seem a lot, but it's a bit like a sort of an exaggeration when you get onto the straight. You carry on with that speed on the straight. Or that differential is the same. So as we arrive at this fast kink here, as we're passing the apex, right screen 124, left screen about 118, 119. So we're still up that sort of 6 miles an hour difference. Now here's a strange thing, because slightly further around the corner, as we pass over this white line, right-hand screen 136, left-hand screen 134. So the speed is closed up. But the difference is now the right-hand bike is now probably 3 or 4 or 5 bike lengths in front. So I've stretched that advantage. So the left-hand screen now has to go quite a bit faster just to catch up with the right-hand screen. So we're approaching turn 6, I think it is now. Very heavy braking, extremely bumpy, difficult to sort of keep the thing stable. It's a bit of a cross, really, this particular corner, with trying to brake super late and keep it all together. The Amco's slightly uncomfortable being that close, but hey, I'm used to doing Macau, so I'm not too worried. Quite a late tip in. Now here's where, for me, the mistake happens, because on the left-hand screen, not that I was particularly racing the right-hand screen, but I was just trying slightly different things. And as we arrive at the apex on the right-hand screen, it dips to about 43, 44 miles an hour. Well, if you look on the left-hand screen, I've actually caught up on the road, because we're arriving practically at the same time. If you look at the speed, it's 49, 50-ish as we get to the same point on the screen. So I'm traveling quite a bit quicker. And as a result of actually trying to maintain a slightly higher corner speed, what happened on the left-hand screen is I was actually travelling just that bit too quick because it's a very, very tight corner. It's much more than 90 degrees, but 120, 130, it's almost back on itself, really. And as a result, from the apex, the right-hand screen, the bike starts to accelerate. But on the left-hand screen, I'm running out to the curb at a similar point on the track, but I'm actually decelerating still because I've actually run in too hot and I've got to get the thing turned. If I'd have opened the throttle at the same point as I did on the right-hand screen, on the left-hand screen, I wouldn't have been able to maintain track at all. I probably would have been off the track at that point, or certainly onto the rumble strip. And the rumble strips here are pretty bad news. You really need to keep off them. So by the time we reach the drift out curb screen, the right-hand screen is up to 64-ish, 65 miles an hour. At the same point, or a very similar point on the track, we're way down on the speed here. And that's all because I didn't accelerate from the apex where I did on this side. So it does show the difference between allowing the bike to sort of carry on turning and then sit it up and then open the throttle, which is what's happened here, and arriving slightly slower, getting more of the turn done, but opening the throttle at the apex and starting to drive hard. It makes an enormous difference at that point. So at this point, the right-hand screen is really starting to kind of stretch away. Up into third, arriving at the next apex, 77 on the right-hand screen, and funny enough, 77 on the left-hand screens, both at 50 degrees, so there's absolutely zero to pick between them. But the right-hand screen is probably thick end of a second, maybe a bit more in front at this point. So that's out to turn 7, up to turn 8. It's just a fast kink more than anything else. You're flat out, short shift into third or fourth, depending on your gearbox. Traveling roughly at the same speed, 46, 47-ish. And then super hard braking into what would be turn 9. Getting rid of some serious speed here. Arriving at the apex, and we're down to 45, 44, about that sort of speed. Now, the left-hand screen, I did a pretty good job at going through the kink and arriving at the turn 9. So I've actually, on the road, I've started to make up a bit of ground here. As you can see, the actual corner speed isn't that much. In fact, it's more or less identical to a mile an hour. This is one corner where, even though the surface is extremely abrasive, you think you've got all the grip in the world, the bike was scrabbling for grip here. So a lot of wheel spin here. So you see the traction is right up. So it's really struggling for grip. And we're aiming up now up towards turn 10. Now the left-hand screen here, I should say the right-hand screen, I think I arrive at this corner quite a bit quicker. So we're apexing about 62, 64 miles an hour. And sorry, it's the left-hand one. Yeah, we're a couple of miles an hour up there. So the left-hand screen is starting to eke back a little bit of time. Coming through the right-hand apex, we're up to sort of 57, 58-ish, where we're at 60-ish. So it's again only a couple of miles an hour, but it's the little tiny bits. It's the dripping tap which fill the bucket at this point. And any advantage is an advantage. If you haven't got the advantage, you've got to go twice as fast, sort of thing, to get back to that same point on the track. So we're now running pretty close time-wise and on the track. As you can tell, the tipping is more or less the same there. We're coming into the bottom of the hill, 102, 100, just slightly slower. The left-hand screen is losing a tiny bit here, speed-wise. Over the crest of the rise, 105 on the right, and we're down to 102 on the left. So the left-hand screen had made up a bit of ground through the chicane, but started to lose a little bit over the rise there. So the right-hand screen's got it again. It started to open that little tiny gap. Into the last few corners. Again, heavy braking over the bumps. You can see by the tipping, the right-hand screen's got the advantage. Once again, corner speed, there shouldn't be much in it. 53, 54 versus 52. So again, 52, 53, so not a huge amount in it. Rapid change of direction, quite a late apex for this one if you can make it. The right-hand screen, I actually went in fractionally too early and had to do a little bit of holding it back before opening the throttle coming out of here. So that's how I have a run towards the patch of tarmac here, which will give us an indication, 95 versus 98. So left-hand screen is trying to make up a bit of ground, better exit out of that corner. And then into the last corner and the run to the line. So arriving at the apex, right-hand screen is down to 56-ish. And it's 55, 56. So again, not much difference there. Having said that, the left-hand screen running slightly offline, not the end of the world at this corner, to be fair. And then up onto the straight. Now, as we're coming to a patch in the track here, which is a good indication of where we are time-wise, 90-ish mile an hour on the right, 88, something like that on the left. So again, not a huge difference. But the damage was done to the left-hand screen fairly, let's say, early in the lap, turn 6. Between turn 4 and turn 6 is where the difference really started to open up. And no matter how hard you try, sometimes you can't close or claw back that extra bit of time. And over up to the line, and that's the difference. Probably just under a second or around a second a lap. So sometimes if you're looking on the timesheet and you look down the sheet and you say, well, how the hell can I get this extra few seconds back? You can see how small differences, small little things, just erode. If you can call it a mistake or even an improvement, can gather a bit of time back. So it's being consistent is really important. I'm going to have a nice slurp of tea, and I'd like your feedback on it to see what your thoughts on it. All the best.